and welcome to another episode of Frame and Reference. I'm your host, Kenny McMillan, and today we're talking with Danny Vecchione and Diego Ongaro, DP and director, respectively, of the new film Down with the King, which just premiered at Cannes, the French festival. This was a fantastic conversation. They shot this film. The movie is about a sort of top of his career rapper who kind of becomes disillusioned with his career trajectory or the rap game in general, however you want to say it, and goes to lives in a farm, to kind of just figure his shit out. And it's a super fascinating film. It is acted by Freddie Gibbs, is the main character, who does a fantastic job. It's his first film. And they shot the whole thing on two Blackmagic Pocket 6Ks, which you would not guess by the quality of the film. Not to say that the Blackmagic cameras aren't good, but it looks like any film you would see in the cinema. And they didn't light it. Well, they did. I mean, it's lit in the sense that they placed lights, but they didn't. It was all naturally lit. You know, they used practicals, they used the sun. Very rarely would they use, cinema lights at all, which I'll let them talk about. It's a great, this is a great episode to listen to if you're the kind of person who's been waiting to hear how something could be made with minimal gear. And so this fantastic film was made very simply but very elegantly. And we talk about that and all kinds of other things, and really had a great conversation with Danny and Diego. So I've thoroughly enjoyed this one, and I think you will too. So instead of taking up all your time, I will let you get to listening. So here it is, my interview with the DP and director of Down with the King.
How did you come up with the story, and how did you decide on having it be primarily a sort of character study that is improv? And by the way, Freddie Gibbs is dope. Way to find a great guy to act.
Yeah,
Freddie was
amazing. Yeah, he's amazing.
Quite a surprise. It all started about 10 years ago. I read an article about a French rapper, young rapper, who was about to come out with his second album, and he was talking in an interview about how difficult it had been for him to write a new album. He was only 18 years old. He felt like he had talked about everything that happened in his life. You know, he was barely 18 in the first album, and felt it was extremely successful in France. And he felt so much pressure at such a young age to come up with something new, and he was lacking the experience. He was becoming suicidal, and it was really interesting to hear that from rappers, which usually they don't show themselves as vulnerable. You always see the tough side. So that stuck with me for years. And then I made my first feature, which Danny was one of the DP. He co-DP'd the film with Chris Teague. It was called Bob in the Trees, and it was a character study of an older logger in Western Massachusetts who struggles to keep his business afloat. We shot that with a very documentary approach, a lot of improv, a lot of characters playing their real self, sort of, within a fictional canvas. And after we finished that film, I felt like I wanted to tell another story set in that same community, blue-collar farmers, loggers in Western Massachusetts. It's a pretty rural part of the state, and that's where I've been living for 15 years. So I know that community really well, and I wanted to tell another story, but from an outsider perspective this time. And I had that story about the rapper, and he would be the outside character, the outsider in the story, and I wanted that story to be told from his perspective. Sort of a rapper, mid-career, at the end of his rope, doubting and being there, totally fish out of the water, writing a new album and falling in love with this countryside, the people around, farming and all that. Something you wouldn't expect to see in a film about rap, where it's usually it's about the business, it's about the grind, like climbing to the top. Here we're start from the top, and it's kind of a downfall from there. And I've always been interested in that process of working with non-actors, the way I did in Bob and the Trees in the first film, and working within that same documentary approach, and working in this case really wanted to work with a real rapper who hadn't necessarily done films, and then work, use his character, his persona and personality and his words, and therefore the improv. So my screenwriter, Shabi Molia, he's French. I'm French myself too. We wrote together a 30-page treatment. It's a breakdown of scenes by scenes with like a bunch of paragraphs, like detailing like what happens in the scenes. But we threw a few words in there, but it was not scripted. I mean, the idea was for the main characters like Freddie, who plays a rapper, and Bob, who plays a farmer, they're gonna be using their own words within a given situation, and we're gonna have to adapt to that, from that. Meaning, Danny, a lot of handheld, being sort of a lot of it in a documentary setting, that we can work with, and sometimes when it's more scripted, we have a better idea of and then we can fine tune more things. But Danny, maybe you want to take it from there and talk about that aspect.
Yeah, the two films too, Bob and the Trees and Down with the King, have repeated characters that show up. Like Bob in Bob and the Trees is Bob in Down with the King. So there's
Bob's like, great.
Bob is kind of the best. I love.
He's really
Bob.
Cool.
Yeah. He's amazing, and his farm. That's his. A lot of it is taken from real life. Like that's Bob's farm. Like he lives on that farm, and it's a family farm, and supports I think probably 6 families or something like that. And it's like a really magical place to shoot too. I mean, it's an incredible location. I think that was really cool. But from Bob and the Trees, we kind of developed. It's just a very unique way to shoot, because it is like a doc narrative hybrid that you're looking at and stuff like that too. But you don't want it to feel. We never want it to feel messy and like just the cameras finding stuff all the time. We wanted to kind of lock into direct cinema type verite stuff. We didn't want it to be like shaky handheld everywhere, all that stuff.
It's not Real Housewives of Massachusetts.
It's not
really. We just got past that, which is good. Yeah. But yeah, and it's fun, and I love shooting doc stuff too. So it's a really cool way to shoot, because there is no script, but you do have the story. Like Diego knows where the whole thing is going, and there'll be like kind of like lines in there. But it was really weird because when we shot Bob in the Trees, my friend Chris Teague, he shot the short. Actually, there's also a short of Bob in the Trees. It was made prior to the feature, and then and he's just explaining to me. He's like, "There's not a script; it's an outline. We're just gonna kind of follow around." I was like, "This sounds kind of." I just never done it before. But then after we kind of got in the swing of it, I was like, I really kind of got into that way of shooting, because you're shooting really, like, in my mind, for both movies, and particularly with Down with the King, I think we kind of had some new ideas that we're able to bring to that film. But I was just in my mind shooting a documentary the whole time.
Right.
So it's kind of a different way. It's a very interesting workflow and stuff like that too. And I think the way the day goes too kind of reflects, I think, Diego's personality too, and things like that. It's like, the crew's like, he wanted super small cameras and super small crew, so it's like very condensed stuff. It's not like a huge production, it's like a really skeleton type, as few people as possible, smallest rigs as possible. All that.
I literally have my second note. See, sometimes I'm bad at taking notes. I got home from an event last night, so I was like, "Oh shit, let's go." All I put was Freddy opening pig scene. That's right. A great note, bud.
That's a good note.
Great note. But then the second one is just, it's a doc. That comes across, but in a way that, in the sense that it feels very real, and like you're just suddenly dropped into this person's life in a way that is relatively compelling. Right.
That was the goal, really. That it feels real, that we have the real deal. We have people like Freddie Gibbs, who's like an extremely talented rapper. People like Bob, who's just like this bigger than life guy, who's this real farmer and logger, and then we have the supporting cast too, which is Jamie Newman and David Krumholtz, who were also able to bring a lot of that improv and their skill as actors. But yeah, having this like authenticity was like crucial, I think, to be so you're in it, you believe it, and then working on the craft and the storytelling and the editing to make it not boring, basically what you said, and to be able to be immersed in that world, like quickly believe it and be compelled by the characters and wanting to stay with them, really.
Well, that method, I suppose, was sort of, I guess, co-signed by Nomadland earlier this year. Getting non-actors to be, because how many of the people in that film are like non-actors?
Well, there's
Bob.
Bob is Freddie was now a professional actor, but that was his first film, so I don't know. It's kind of in the middle.
Right.
And then Jamie Newman and David Krumholtz are not. Obviously, Sharon Washington was not, and then the rest of the cast was kind of mostly non-actors, for like the small roles.
Yeah, like in the hardware store and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Daniel, talk to me about how did you approach lighting all these scenes? Because it looks very unlit, which I know is kind of the best thing in the world.
It is totally not lit, I would say.
so zero lighting package.
Well, I only lit stuff when I absolutely had to light it, basically. So we were trying to go with it. Yeah, the stuff at night. Well, there's a party scene where that kind of goes off the rails in the movie, and we had a bunch of like Christmas lights strung up everywhere and all that stuff. So I had to put like a light mat 4 up overhead because there was just nothing in the middle of the room. There was just like we just couldn't shoot in there.
So up top.
Yeah, there was these like beams that we kind of like Cardellini'd off and just hung a light mat 4, got it to the right, the right color temp, probably around 2800 or something like that. Dimmed it down a little bit, put that little magic cloth on there. And then also there's a very short scene in Jamie's kitchen, Jamie Newman, like where he comes over after he drives to her house. And I did the same thing. I just used the same kind of technique in a kind of a different way with the light mat 4. Because there was just no exposure. I couldn't do that. We did have the benefit of, we had the main hero house, which is in real life down the block from Bob's farm, strangely, in Sandusfield in the Berkshires. So we had a really close, like all our, I guess maybe 90% Diego of the locations were within 2 miles of shooting.
Great for company moves.
Boom. Yep. Yeah. So it was amazing. And then the concert scene, we actually shot at Mass Mocha, and that was all lit. Like we had to light that like a concert. So that was actually a fairly, sizable, concert kind of thing that we had to make look like a concert. So we had.
So that wasn't a real concert.
No, that we had. That was when we had to do it during COVID too. It was a mess. Well, we had stock footage, and then we had the big. It looks huge.
It looks enormous. Yeah.
It looks just like there's this stock stuff that's just like massive, and it's just like the chanting and the sound design helps out obviously too. But we had like 16 extras, and we shot everything on like long lenses with like real active kinetic cameras, and then we're on stage with Freddie too. But there was a lot of discussion. That was the only other, we had to storyboard that scene out too, because it was just like, how are we going to make this look like a show with like no people?
Right.
So that was way more, that scene out of the whole movie was the most traditional movie scene, even though it feels, I think, similar to the rest of the film too.
Yeah, I actually didn't put together that you guys did this film so recently, because I've definitely seen a few, let's call them COVID films that are very apparently like, oh, we can't do anything. Well, let's get one actor and have them stand outside. Not that they're bad films, but it's just kind of apparent that that's the case.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't put that together.
Which is when it's also, we shot it like last October, November, because we really wanted to get that past, like another thing, like the passing of seasons, and like thematically tying into Freddy's characters, like, from autumn into winter kind of thing. But yeah, it was challenging, but we were kind of also it's very deep in the country there too. Like, you're in the woods, so you're kind of potted together too. And we were also doing, like, getting tested all, like, we were trying to follow as many safety protocols as we could, for everyone's safety. But it's like, you're not coming into contact with that many other people, and the testing was up, at least 3 times a week, I think, if I remember right. Whatever the
3 times. I mean, we were following the protocol, like the SAG protocol, like being tested 3 times a week. We had medic, COVID supervisor on set. I mean, it was a big logistic, for a small movie like ours. It was definitely a big chunk of the budget, and slowing us down too. It was really tricky. I mean, and really being scared every day. You just wonder if someone's going to test positive, or even like a false positive would take us down, like, really. So that was, I was really worried about that. But
how did you guys approach sort of audio and lensing? So you did this on 2 Pocket 6Ks?
So yeah, we had 2 Pocket Camera 6Ks from Blackmagic, 2 VideoSys 7-inch monitors, and then we had 2, and there was 2 cameras. So anytime there was dialogue happening, there was 2 cameras. So Connor Lawson, who's did additional cinematography and B-cam on the film, who's been my AC forever, and I think he did a great job. He kind of stepped in and did this great stuff. We just kind of synced up together, and we kind of moved around the room, sort of mismatched lenses, but we shot on the Atlas Orion anamorphic lenses on the Pocket, which I just listened to your podcast, which was super cool.
He's great.
He was really cool, and I didn't know he did paralinks too.
I know. When he told me that,
I was like, what?
I used those things forever ago.
I know, the Tomahawks were super cool, and I was like, this guy's obviously a bright guy. So, but anyway, I wanted to have and Diego can talk more about this too, but there's this 2 worlds meeting, and I wanted the lenses. Diego really wanted the stuff small, because on Bob and the Trees, it was like Chris Teague and I and 1 assistant with backpacks tromping around in the snow, and that was it. There was no camera cart. Diego didn't have a monitor. It was just like he was just with the actors and just like very present. And he wanted to keep the same vibe, but we did have a lot of discussions in pre-pro, Diego and I, about how to approach it. And we kind of landed on this thing with Freddy's character being like, we were kind of talking about like where he is in the hip hop world, and he was saying he's like maybe one of the top 10 rappers, like bottom half of the top 10 rappers in the world.
Right.
And I was like, I wanted that high end, kind of hip hop lifestyle reflected in some way, and then also this farming lifestyle, and the joining of the 2 worlds, like the Blackmagic 6Ks that then bump down to 3.2. They have an anamorphic setting on it. So you get the 3.2K anamorphic setting. And then I didn't realize initially even that the Atlas Orions have an EF mount option.
Oh, were you adapting?
No, so we took the adapter off, and because to get the PL mount in the Blackmagic's a whole operation that I think we kind of almost destroyed a camera in the camera test. But then I didn't realize that, because it's a lot. Like, you have to go into the thing, and it's like an hour and a half for me to kind of do. So
it's not built for it.
It's not. Well, you can build it yourself for it, but it's I was like, it's like the little tiny pins that are. It took me a while, but we ended up doing that. But then they have the EF mount, so the camera and the lenses were able to go together, and they were still a little big. But I was like, I think if I can approach it still in the small way, we'll get this anamorphic, this kind of like this meeting of the 2 worlds that we're looking for, that's going to reflect Freddy's character as well, basically. And it is big. We use basically like Easy Rig Vario 5s and like that combo, and just kind of was able to kind of get this hopefully steady handheld vibe. Plus the sticks and stuff like that too. But it was I don't know. I think it worked out well and we also wanted to shoot when we have the anamorphics, like you can't open up to all the way on really any anamorphic. I mean, you can, but it's not going to give you the best results. So we're trying to shoot
too cool.
It's a little too much. Yeah. And the Atlases, which I love the Atlas, the Orions, but if you open them up, it starts getting the shaved kind of bokeh thing that like gets cut off, as it looks kind of strange because they're not. I mean, you're not supposed to shoot them wide open. So we're trying to shoot it like a 4, like around a 4, usually 4, 5, 6 split, sometimes 2, 8, 4 split. So in that range, though, we were kind of hitting that f-stop basically through the whole film. So we were able to kind of do that with the Blackmagic too, because it has that dual ISO thing too. So you can jack it up to 3200, which does introduce noise, but like we added a bunch of grain in post anyway. So it's like we knew it was going to be kind of dirtied up and natural as possible looking.
So were you just pulling focus by hand, or did you have ACs with you?
We did. We had Betts Wilkins and Marina King were the 2 ACs, and they were great. So Marina's a B cam, Betts was on A cam, and they had we had this time Diego had a monitor, which was kind of wild for him, but he's but the Marina and Betts would just be remote focusing, and then Diego had 2 images up on a 7-inch monitor all the time, and that was all the monitors. We had three 7-inch monitors, 2 for ACs and 1 for Diego, but so we basically did that. So we would just be operating. Focus was being done by them, and then but that was it really for crew. We didn't have like a G&E crew or anything. It was just like that was about it.
How are you handling wireless out of the Blackmagic, because they don't have an SDI, right?
There was a lot of, and the first 2.5 days was kind of crazy because the cameras just came out, and I only found one video of some guy in England who had done this combo. So It was kind of a beta. It worked in the camera tests because we tested a bunch of different cameras basically in New York. But then when we got it on set, you really try it. And I was trying to make it super small. I was trying to really shrink it down, but you still have the anamorphics, and we basically ended up having Teradek, bolts, and everything's kind of just Velcroed onto everything because there's not that much surface area of a camera to put it on too. But we basically ended up doing that. It was basically a Teradek Bolt 3000s that we would kick out to the monitors and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But the first 3 days was dicey because we were also recording out to a Samsung SSD drive.
Yeah.
And the A cam, that USB-C cable was faulty, which I did not know, and took a second to figure out. Plus the power distribution that I originally had was not good. And my camera kept on crashing and stuff like that. But it was after we figured it out, it was fine. And then we were like smooth sailing after that. But it's weird because it's like you're just making up this camera build as you go. It's like, it's not like a thing. So it took a little bit of time. And then afterwards, I got into a groove, and it was like really, really smooth after that, which was cool.
I shot a music video on that exact same combo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And except I was pulling focus by hand. And
on the Orions?
Yeah.
Oh God.
It was fun. And it's called Blacked Out, if anyone, by Alexa Van and the Blackouts. But one thing that was random to me was I was recording to the T5, and that same thing, that USB-C cable. I think we should all go to USB-C in general, but you need a locking connector. I think we in the film industry need to just decide on maybe like locking. That we don't have to change the protocols, but just something that is built into a camera that locks HDMI and USB-C into place.
I was just going to mention the HDMI thing too. Yes, yes. You want to start a club on this? I'll sign a petition. I'm ready. Yeah.
It's every time I had the thing on a tripod and or a monopod, and anytime, fun random fact, if this happens to anyone, if I went down to the ground too hard, it would reset the camera.
Right. Right.
Random.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of stuff. How did you do the power? How did you do the power? Did you have any like Teradek stuff happening, or was it?
No. So it was just the camera. So I was just swapping batteries like a motherfucker. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, use the internal battery.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah.
It was caged up it was literally just caged up so that I could put the T5 on it, honestly.
Right.
Which is funny because the T5 gets a nice little clamp, but there's no.
There's a lot of stuff. Well, we got like, I mean, Betts and Marina and Connor and I were like, it was like a little tinker toy thing at the because I was staying with Rob, the producer, and Connor, the B Cam Op and additional sonographer. We were staying at the Hero location the whole time, and like the lower floor, which is never shot, was like the camera lair, and had like a like a wood burning oven, a pool table, and just like a bunch of camera stuff that was just kind of always ready to, like, we never really broke the cameras down. They were just always kind of built ready to go. Sure. And they would just kind of be in that room basically. But it was like a little, like the first little bit was just like, mad scientist laboratory getting these cameras going. But it was fun to do. I mean, in hindsight, it was stressful, sure. but they definitely, we're asking a lot of the cameras too. It's a lot to ask of these things because they're amazing. They're like $2,000 bodies, and you're trying to,
I have to give Blackmagic like credit, like for any like problems anyone's ever had with their gear.
Yeah.
You can't complain. Like, you're getting such a great image out of what is almost a free camera. Like you could buy Resolve and they're just like, here, have a camera.
Right. It is great. I mean, they do a lot too. I mean, like we also had to do like a lot because we're not lighting it, and we have windows and Freddie Gibbs, who's like, he's like somewhat darker complexion kind of guy. So it's like we have to kind of keep that in mind with no lights. Like it's a really like you're towing the line of a lot of stuff because you're trying to keep highlights outside and not light him and just have him wander wherever you want to go in the house. And like, right. And there's like, I mean, there's one scene that I was like, oh God, I thought I had it, but it's like him talking to the, what's his,
Beatmaker.
Oh, Michael's Affair, the Beatmaker. Yes. Where the face goes like super under. And I thought I had it, but like you're shooting it and the light just like went down in that scene. And I was like, I think I could pull this up in post, but it's like, I don't know. It's emotionally the scene's there too, which is good. But that was the one that I was like, you can't really stop this is going, like the scene's going. It's like, you got to keep, kind of ride it out, I think. So.
And you were shooting raw for the whole thing?
Yeah, be raw for the whole thing.
At what compression? Just like maxed out compression?
What did we shoot? I think we shot 8:1.
Yeah.
Because the data just gets insane.
Yeah. How are you wrangling that without a DIT with you?
Originally Marina was doing it, and it was just taking so long that it was kind of getting not fair for her to do it. And but it's just like taking like 2.5 extra hours at night. So we ended up bringing in a downloader to come in and deal with that. Probably like, I don't know, after the first week and a half or 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was like a 20-day shoot too, which is like a nice, somewhat comfortable shooting schedule, which is cool.
So how much data were you generating per day?
It was a lot because they eat up, like the B-Raws files are like at 8:1. I think we shot 8:1. I can't remember. We did all these tests.
From my test, yeah. So I writing for ProVideo Coalition, which sort of sponsors this podcast and sponsors. They only listen to the first 5 minutes. They won't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I did a review of the Pocket 6. Oh, I did that review for the rental house anyway, so who cares? But Stray Angel for anyone in Los Angeles. But the thing I noticed was like 8:1 compression functionally looked identical to even the better version, even nicer cameras. Like that was kind of the butter zone.
Yeah, that's what we did. I mean, is it the third setting? 8:1
on the
we used that.
Yeah, there's like the big one and then the two little ones. Yeah, I think that's right.
That's the one we used. Yeah. I couldn't remember. I think it's been like almost a year since we shot it, so I was like trying to remember. But it is. We did a camera test out. I think I paid my daughter in Robux to go do camera tests on my sidewalk with me. But we tested all the compressions, and Rob is just telling me that we did in fact shoot 8:1 for the stuff. But I can't remember how many terabytes we eventually ended up with, even because it would depend on day to day. Because it's like the nature of the shooting was like,
right,
like real, like we were saying, like really documentary style. So it's like, for stuff like the dinner scene. Like, that's like a 2-hour thing where you're just like two cameras, just like, you're just rolling for 2 hours and wandering around getting stuff basically.
Yeah. Don't quote me, but we had two 14 terabytes drives and we used basically less than 1.5. So we were around 18, 19, 19 tera maybe for the whole film, around
Okay,
there.
well that's not horrifically terrible for hard drive space necessarily.
Yeah, yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah,
Well, the 8 to 1 made a big difference on that for sure. It would have
yeah,
been much bigger.
it's wild. I was just talking to another DP about just a friend of mine about how like we spent so many years obsessing about cameras, and now it feels like just pick one. They're all good. Like you can't go wrong with the image. Your storage isn't going to be horrific unless you're even Red Raw isn't like huge. Shooting RAW on my C500, not that. I mean, it's a little big, but it's not like horrific. Yeah, it's just cameras are so cool now. We can focus on story now, which they told us we should do, and it's boring.
Yeah.
How are you handling NDs? Because I know the 6K doesn't have a UV filter, or what do you call it?
It doesn't have internal NDs or any, or any like, so what we ended up going with was a variable ND. So we had like a LMB map boxes, and we instead of like, because it would have just been so much time, and like just with the weather changes and stuff too, I was like, let's just do variable ND, keep it super simple, and like Connor and I would kind of like team up, head over, kind of look at our stuff, be like, okay, this is good, and go separate out and shoot that way. And we hit almost all of it pretty good though together. There was one scene like there was like a little bit tricky stuff in post. We did the post. Alex Berman did the color correct at Goldcrest in New York, and
color
it was
looks
like
amazing, by the way. Shout out to him.
Yeah, thanks. Alex is great too. It's kind of cool because the color. It's such a naturalistic movie, but the color is not entirely rooted in realism.
Sure.
Like it's a little like, it's a little bumped out of total reality, which I kind of like. But it was, I mean, Diego and I were talking about that. Diego's like, I don't want like an Instagram vibe either, but it's finding that like where, how do you deal with, such a I don't know, someone like Diego's style is like kind of aggressively naturalistic, aggressive realism.
What enhanced? What do they call it? Enhanced realism or hyper realism? Yeah. I don't know. David Fincher has a word for that, and I've stolen it a bunch, but it's escaping me right now.
But yeah, we had a fun. It was a fun color correct thing. We just kind of finished it too. Like we went to Cannes, and it was like we had to have the thing colored, and they were like, it was down to the hours of like the download and uploads that they needed in France. It was like that week. It was like that day that they needed it, and it was like we finished like, right then, which is kind of cool.
They didn't ask you for a DCP. They were cool with just like a file.
No. We sent 2 DCPs, but we sent the DCP over. It was an early screening for distributors in France before the festival, like 10 days before, and we needed to. It was in a theater. We needed to send that one over the internet, and that was pretty stressful. Because nothing was working, obviously.
I was thinking about the role of the DP. You can go forever doing corporate work. You can go forever doing these things that are more formulaic, but you potentially won't be fulfilled creatively. And it feels like in the film that was kind of Freddie's thing, is he wasn't feeling creatively fulfilled. He felt like he was kind of going through the motions. And I was wondering if you kind of have experienced that in your life as a DP, maybe in your day-to-day job, if you even have one of those, shooting or anything like that.
I guess in a weird way, I was really attracted to this. Well, I mean, I really like working with Diego just in general. I think he's like a very interesting, the way he thinks about movies is very interesting, kind of not a traditional movie making thing. And I'm really drawn to that sort of out of the box kind of, it's new. It feels new and exciting each time.
Right.
Because it's not like I don't shoot like this with anybody else. I shoot a lot of documentary stuff and everything, but I mean, I think as far as the story goes and stuff like that too, it's also like Freddie in the movie is having basically a midlife crisis and is feeling unfulfilled creatively, even though he's really at the top of his game in the movie. He's just not doing it for him anymore. But I feel like there was a period where I was like just banging out features like one after. It's just like I was shot like 12 features back to back, and I just like burned out. And I was like, I'm exhausted. It's exhausting, so much to shoot a feature, and some did well, some didn't go anywhere. It just depends. They had, ups and downs and everything. But I was like I was just burned out on shooting. I was like, I cannot shoot. I can't fathom shooting another one of these and just like giving that much, and like not seeing my daughter, just being away, and stuff like that. So I ended up doing more, some corporate stuff, but did a lot of documentary, just a ton of documentary work for a bit too. And like this movie, I was like, this is super interesting, like to do. And I was like, I could totally relate to I could like really dive into this character as a guy who's like, at this stage in his life too. And I just really enjoyed it. I think out of everything I've shot, I related to this on a personal level more than I related to any other movie. And like, and I guess I just tried as hard as I could to, I just tried to give in as much as I could too, and do as much prep and as much thinking, and, was talking with Diego a ton. And we were talking about this for like years too, actually, because it's like he was trying to get money. It's really hard for him to get money for it, and find, like, it just sort of came up. And Diego can talk much more about this with Breaker and all that stuff too, because he said the script. I read the first script, I don't know, 3-4 years ago.
We wrote the script. We started writing in 2015, and we were kind of done with it halfway through 2016. And yeah, it took years of finding the right person for the cast to play that role, and trying to find the right partners, who can back us financially. And it was hard. It was so hard, and banging on so many doors and getting a lot of no's. And kudos to Breaker Studio, who stepped in and then produced that film with us. I mean, they were really amazing. But yeah, it came after I gave up on this movie for a little bit and started working on construction, and with a contractor, and decide to revive it, and give it like one last go. And so Freddie, and was like totally fell in love with his character and his persona. And as soon as COVID hit, I was like, this is it. I'm gonna get in touch with this guy. His tour is canceled. He is stuck home with his kids, and this is the moment. Like, if he's gonna look at it, at a script, at a different proposition from what he usually gets, this is the time to do it. And it worked. A month later, we were talking with him and his manager, and he was really into the character and really relating to what the character go through, and also had a big desire for acting. So he came on board pretty quickly. And then Breaker Studio came in after that, and we were able to make it happen within 5 weeks in the middle of COVID in the fall. That's how it happened. But yeah, it was years of talking, Danny and I, about this thing, and and checking in, and there's something new. No, sorry, and just checking in like 3 months later, and like, but yeah, we definitely had time to think about it and to adjust things, and until we were able to make it.
There's a phrase that I've stolen. There's plenty I've stolen, but which is, people say like, "Oh, fix it in post," and it's like, no, fix it in pre.
Absolutely.
Fix it in pre. I think it's pre-production is super undervalued, especially for how inexpensive it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that scene at the concert is a good example. We talked about it earlier, and we knew we didn't have the people, we didn't have the extras because of COVID. We had that big, beautiful stage, but that was empty, really. So we really planned it out, because it's a scene towards the end of the movie, and if you mess that scene up, the whole movie is going to collapse. So it was really important to nail it and to prep it as much as we could, looking ahead of time at, stock footage that's going to match the lighting we want to do, thinking about storyboarding and doing all of these camera angles ahead of time, and thinking about the feeling of the scene, and really getting closer to the character as we go into into that scene, and really we talked a lot about that scene because we really wanted to nail it. And when we actually shot it, it was so easy, right? I mean, it was crazy how quick we were able to film it.
Yeah, yeah. We were like banging out take after take. We had all the. I mean, it was the only time we shot listed.
Yeah.
In the whole thing too, but we were like, and we were very I think we were both wrapped up and very stressed about the extras. Sure, and right. The size of the scale that wasn't going to be there. Because we're like, maybe we can get 30 people, and then it's like maybe 20, and it ended up, I think it was like 15, 16 or whatever. But like, how does that work? And it's just like, it's really just kind of accumulating the footage. And then we also decided, it's like, after a while, Diego and we're like, it's not about the crowd. It's like, you just have to kind of sell that it's a crowd, and then it's really about Freddie in this one moment. So it's like, you want to be more with him than with the crowd anyway. So it's a lot of it, like after you sell the crowd, you're just with him in various, like we're like right next to him on stage, kind of like dancing around with the easy rig, kind of getting stuff and things like that too. But it was like similar, like to that scene versus but we did, but as far as not that we didn't shot list though, but Diego and I sat down. What was cool is like staying in that hero house, which is like, I think maybe the best naturally lit location I've ever shot in. I have to say that house was incredible to shoot in.
I genuinely thought that you had way more lighting than just a light mat. I love the light mat, but holy shit,
yeah,
that sun is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
And also every single light in that house was on a dimmer, and everything was not on a dimmer, we put on a dimmer. So like at the night scenes, and it's like firelight, it's just cool. Like the house had all this great stuff going on that we like flip on and off, kind of. And we would like shape the light a little bit. Like I'd put like some like light. There was like little candelabras that I would like diaper with like grid or something. And there's a couple scenes I had a blackout. Like when he's rapping we sort of doing his work in the study. We had to shoot that during the day. So like there's like a blackout stuff happening, and then using practicals. But it was like just deciding where practicals were and which ones were turned on, kind of was the sort of the thing. But like just from coming from like doc style background, like thinking into that, but like making it, this is like really unintrusive lighting and just kind of like go into it sort of thing. But we were able to like sit, since I was like staying there too, but Diego and I would like just kind of sit in the living room for hours and like not shot list, but I think we kind of like just talked. I don't know how to explain it.
We just sort of a rough shot list. Yeah, we had like a list of shots that we wanted to do, and then sort of like
But it was like we talked about the scenes, but it wasn't like, okay, he enters here and blah blah blah. We were talking about like the feeling of stuff more than like specifics. We'd like really get into the nitty gritty of like what the scene had to kind of like feel like, and like, kind of like maybe where we could be and stuff like that. But we started getting into like, zeroing in on like long, the longest lens possible in any kind of scene and stuff like that too, which was like, we had the Orions, we had the 32 to 100, but we barely used, I think we used the 32 in the hardware store once because we were jammed in a corner and we just we had to use it, I think. Right. Maybe a couple landscapes, but we were trying to shoot 50 to 100 most of the movie.
That 65 they have is a really nice looking lens.
I love that lens. Yeah. Yeah. I love the 100. I like the 100 too, but it's like the 100 handheld is like, you can't,
you got it.
You can't breathe. Yeah. Like it was Connor. I was like, Connor, you're like, if you're, you have too much oxygen, you're doing the shot wrong. Like you have to really just sink into that type of, stationary type thing, which is good.
Yeah. Going back to the using practicals and doing blackouts, I'm pretty sure every DP on this podcast has mentioned that with digital cinematography, it's more about taking away light than it is adding it at this point. Everyone's using a lot more negative fill than back in the day, I suppose. But recently I wrote an article about, I literally took my color meter because I'm this kind of nerd, and I have maybe 20 bulbs over here on the couch. And can you see them? Oh, you can see them. I can see them. Yeah, these are all light bulbs, and these are all boxes of light bulbs. And I color metered all of them, and I just saved out the spectral output. And I just wanted to see if you went to a hardware store, and technically I went to a Ralph's, but could you just grab bulbs off the shelf, and would they be good for practicals? And I found that generally no. Were you, if you wanted to like perfectly match traditional tungsten, were you using just kind of the bulbs in the house? Did you swap them out? Did you have sort of a ethos there or anything like that?
We did switch a lot of the bulbs out, especially the candelabra ones. The candelabras were the clear ones, and I just got everything frosted candelabras, and then anything that was not, and then I basically had to have just dimmable bulbs. And I kind of go for the reveals a lot.
So you were using real tungsten?
Yeah.
Oh, so I was talking about LED, because in California you can't actually buy tungsten bulbs. They're all LED.
Oh, right. You guys are super green. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is probably better. Yes.
Fucking rad, dude.
Forgot LA style.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were doing that, and then it was hard to get them though, actually, because they're not that around that much either. Did you find some cool stuff out with the color meters? It's like you had different brands and stuff. Basically, you're testing.
Yeah. So this is great for everyone listening. So I got these random Philips. They're all dimmable because that's important. Okay. Philips didn't really do well. Cree, the brand Cree did all right.
Okay. Yep.
I metered these LA Department of Water and Power sent everyone in LA like a couple bulbs to put in the house, and fuck them, man. Those bulbs suck. They're horrible. They're horrible. Like they massive green shift, like just no spectral output. Just making everyone feel sick in their own homes. The move for anyone listening or yourself is these GE Sun-Filled.
GE Sun-Filled?
Yes.
You like those ones?
They're $11 a pop, so they're expensive, but like they're TLCI of like 99, CRI of like 99. TM30, just like a perfect circle. If anyone's that kind of nerd knows what the fuck I'm talking about. But yeah, really, really good spectral output. Almost hit. I think it was off by like 40 Kelvin or 14 Kelvin. I think like it was dead on what it said on the box.
14 Kelvin. You got to be super nerding out to really get upset about that. I think. You know, that's all right.
Yeah,
that's good to know. Actually, that's some really good information.
Yeah, especially because I was able to get a sort of a chandelier almost. It's like a 7 bulb grouping, and so if you were to put 7 of these sun-filled bulbs in there, you get a pretty decent. You could use it as a fill, use it as a key for like a close-up or something like that, and it would be really accurate to either daylight or tungsten matching any kind of scene you're in.
That's.
Yeah, so the sun-filled bulbs were I want to go back and test a bunch more, but like I'd end up spending $1,000 at Home Depot just buying single bulbs. So
nice.
For right now, it's sun-filled. But yeah, it's good that you were able to use traditional tungsten because it does. First of all, legally, it has a spectrum that no other bulbs have yet to replicate. So it does give a look that is much better.
It's prettier. It's just a prettier look.
Yeah,
it's just the rest of them have that kind of zingy kind of, that electric feeling where it's like doesn't have the softness. There's like it's sort of like that. It's like weird. I don't know. Weirdly, like HMIs always feel have that hard zingy hit, and it has the same vibe with those kind of bulbs, if that makes sense too. As opposed to like just tungsten source stuff, the old school tungsten source stuff, and the bulbs. But yeah, it's. I think they're getting there. They are getting much better than they were like 5 years ago. Like it was really rough, I think. But it's a weird thing. It's like a transitionary kind of, thing for light bulbs right now.
Yeah.
they're developing, I guess, every day. But
it's funny. My girlfriend makes fun of me all the time for like, why are you're literally like writing an article about light bulbs? And I'm like, it's important to my job. It is funny though, because like I never understood what people meant when they were saying like, oh, it looks electric, but it truly is like a people, like we were saying earlier, like people focus so much about cameras. It's like really focus. It doesn't matter the fixture, but it does matter the quality of the light.
Yeah,
so much. Like, we can just throw up a sky panel. Like the sky panels don't even. Fun fact, everyone, the sky panels aren't even that great of a light spectrally.
Yeah.
They don't do BB&S. I think probably has a more accurate, but no one's ever heard of them. But it is like we're kind of all using the easy fixtures, these LED panels, the even the COB hard lights, but it is pretty dramatically taking away a large amount of quality to the image.
Yeah. I mean, the sky panels are great just because they're so versatile. And I think, and they have a lot, they just do a lot in many different situations. So it's kind of like the Leatherman of lighting units or something too, where you could just put like an S60, be like, all right, there's a little, book like this and everything's, you'll be fine. It's kind of a general kind of thing, or put the Chimera on it, or, whatever you're going to use and stuff. But yeah, it was weird. It was weird to not have a non-lit feature, which is because I did have a Joker 800, a Light Mat 4, or a goat dolly for there's one dolly shot in the movie, like he's up on top of the mountain.
Hey, you brought it and you're going to use it.
I had to use it. I didn't use the Joker. I thought the Joker was going to come out. I think Diego at some point, he's like, "Are you going to light anything on this?" I was like, "No, I'm just gonna do this." But it was, it was cool because we were like, as we were planning, it's like I spent so much time in the house, and you see the sun, this path every day in overcast, in sunshine, and as it's changing, so you kind of know each part of the day. Like I know at 3 p.m. it's going to look good here. And it's going to look good, right. In the morning, this is the way to shoot this way. So it's just putting Freddie and kind of cornering him in with the cameras. And maybe he can sort of adjust into stuff in this spot and stuff. So we kind of do stuff like that, which is cool. We did have a really tricky stuff though, because there's so many windows in the house and
right.
It snowed. So we had that transition, that seasonal transition, but the snow was awesome because I was able to get a bunch of run out in the morning before the crew got there and just bang out 20 snow shots, just running around the property. But then we had to shoot and it wasn't supposed to be snowing in the movie. So we have to still shoot out the windows and not see snow. So it's there's some shots in the movies, if you really look super hard at the out of focus background, maybe you can tell, but it's we're scraping along,
right.
paneled windows and just kind of you see it's daylight, but it got really tricky, because we had to do how many days did we do that, Diego? It was the snow, no snow.
It was one day. It was one day of snow, but we definitely had to step away from the windows a little bit or avoid seeing through because the snow was piling up.
Yeah, it was
one day before the weekend. Yeah.
Maybe it was just one day. That's a little tricky.
Yeah. Did you prefer because again, for people listening, it doesn't look not lit. It looks not lit in the sense of complimenting a cinematographer, but it does. I didn't think there was no fucking lights. You did a really good job finding the exact right place to place people and all that.
It was, thank you. I think it's also just knowing the really harnessing the natural light, just because there's an exposure, don't put them there. Kind
right.
of it's there, going into space and taking a minute and being okay, this can really work, in this way. And I don't think, I didn't want it to feel like a lit thing, but I didn't want it to feel like a garbagey, you just run and gun, bad doc style stuff that I
right.
dislike too and stuff. I wanted to have a certain amount of beauty and poise to the shots and not just so rough, even though, I think a certain roughness and rawness to it adds to it, but I wanted it still to be ultimately it's it's a fun movie. But I feel it's an accessible art film and it's an enjoyable kind of it's not a pretentious kind of art film. I think it's kind of something that people can enjoy watching, but it's trying to, best to do some art.
Yeah.
On this one.
Well, and it's Diego, maybe you can speak to this a little bit, but it had there are certain movies that I've been caught up doing this. I'm a really easy moviegoer. I like movies in general. Pick a film, and I'm I'd never seen any of the DC movies, and then I watched the 4-hour Snyder cut Justice League, and I was just all right, man, let's do it. I had no skin in the game, but I'm still there for 4 hours. All right, cool. But this film had something that other movies have done to me, which is about 30 minutes in, I was wait, when did we start? It felt like I had been here the whole time. Was that a creative choice? Because it genuinely feels like you're suddenly there and you've been there the whole time. I don't know how better to explain that.
Yeah, I think it crept up on you, and I think that's the best that I can hope that happens to someone that watches the film. I really wanted to get the feeling of you're just being dropped out of the plane in this guy's life, and he's already in the countryside, supposedly working on his album, and already knows a bunch of the characters and interacting with them. So I wanted to get that feeling, and at the same time get a sense of that his new routine and building building a bond with the farmer who he ends up helping throughout the film, and the bond with the girl that he has a story with, who's the niece of the farmer. So yeah, it was really sort of a little touches. If you think of impressionist painting, it's little dots, little touches that if you step away, it just draws a whole picture. So that's how I like to make films, and that's usually the type of films I relate to. You spoke about Chloe Zhao before. I really, that's someone I feel close to, and I love her work. And the writer, or the last one, whose name is escaping me, who won all the Oscars, Nomadland. It's all these little touches that some are pretty mundane, some are important for the narrative, but they draw a picture, which ultimately I hope you're getting involved with emotionally.
Yeah. I actually sort of in that light touches. I don't know why this came up, but a logistical question. There's a scene sort of, I guess, I don't know if it's in the top floor. It feels like it's in the, sort of the top floor of the place, but it's like the game room, I suppose.
Yeah, right.
And everyone is fucked up. What is it? Do you literally just go like, all right, guys, here's the liquor, here's the weed, have fun, we're gonna film this guy? Or was that like just excellent acting?
Yeah, that's good acting. No,
really?
I mean, yeah. That's
fantastic.
Some guys may have had a few drinks, but
sure,
yeah,
have a few.
It was prop drinks, prop weed, and yeah, they were doing what they know how to do. Like, it was like a party scene, so it wasn't really hard to get
drawing from life experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was because I genuinely thought like, oh man, they just really sent this. Because that's the mark of a really good sort of verite film, is like I legitimately just went like, oh, there you go, man. That's college filmmaking right there.
It was kind of a weird. I think Diego also has an approach that it's like a very Diego's like very calm and quiet in general, and I'm pretty quiet on set, but it's like a very kind of like easing into it's a kind of interesting way to do it. So it's not like like on a normal movie, it's like there's a lot, since we had no AD too, so there's no one central person being, Rob was there and I was there and Diego, but it's a very calm way to go into it. It's like they get in the morning, get breakfast, kind of ease on, but like as the scenes go, it's like you're getting the cameras on, somebody like we'll have a slate, but it's like the slate comes in and kind of like goes out, and we're still kind of rolling, and we're just kind of ease into scenes basically. And it's not like this, okay, God, there's not like a yelling going. It's just this way of kind of going into it that feels very, very calm and very kind of controlled. And it's a nice environment too. It's like, it's a non-aggressive type environment. There's no like, normal films yelling everywhere and people are running, it just feels very, very calm. And I think that kind of environment also like helps out with the naturalism too. That just sort of like the way we shot it.
And also the casting. I mean, when you look at all right, Freddie's sidekick in that scene, it was really important that we get people that he knows, that he feels comfortable with, and that you feel that chemistry right away. They're not just actors that we brought out on the shoot. They were like his pals that happen to be real good actors also. But they already know each other. So you have that backstory that's already there, and and they do the rest. And it's that's what's make it real too.
Yeah, and also pulling the old Knives Out move of living in the house that you're shooting in must have really helped. Was it hard to sort of separate, shooting and living? Like, certainly with work from home, we've all been like answering emails at midnight or editing way later than you should. Were you able to have like a definitive, like, all right, it's, 8 p.m. Let's wrap. We're done now. Or did you kind of just go until you felt like you had the day?
Well, I think we would shoot, the shoot day would be over, but then it was like Rob and Diego. And then also Matt Gallagher, who's like just a cool guy. He's like Bob's son-in-law, but he, we kind of just hang out, and he was like helping out tremendously with just like farm locations. And he's like, just this extreme, outdoorsy dude who's just knows how to do, bow hunting and all. He's just a dude. He's really cool. Right. But we just kind of like hang out and talk about, the day and stuff like that. But I mean, Connor and I would end up shooting. There's a ton of B-roll in the film too, but on the weekends we were just kind of there, and I would just do it for fun. Like, and I think the Berkshires is like one of the most beautiful places in America, and the leaves were going down. So I was like, I'm just need to get as much footage of the seasonal change as possible. So I would just kind of go out with Connor, and we would just kind of mess around on the weekends and, go just shoot stuff basically too, which is super fun. So, and I did it like more out of fun. I don't really do that, I guess, on any other thing, but I was just kind of doing it for this movie for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's a lot easier, like we were saying, with those small, if you had 3 full-sized RELFs, you wouldn't be like, let me just go grab this and shoot some leaves.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of cool because it's like not ever breaking down the camera is kind of huge, because it's just sitting there, and it's just like, okay, it's the sun setting. Let's just go bang out hour and a half until sunset and all that stuff too. Which was kind of cool, and just getting like the right light and stuff and everything. Also in the movie too, we also I started getting like slightly obsessed with we called it the dog wolf, but I can't remember the phrase, Diego. What is it?
It's dusk. I mean, it's the word we created for dusk. It's in French there's a term called between dog and wolf, entre chien et loup, which means the magic hour, basically, that time between night and day. And yeah, we called it dog wolf because of that. And that's when things became crazy. And then he would transform into a werewolf.
Working fast as hell.
Oh yeah, putting a lot of pressure on everyone because we had 10 minutes to get the shot. It was fun. And for some reason, every day we found a scene to shoot at dusk at dog wolf.
I'm hoping that enters the lexicon. That's a great phrase.
The dog wolf, because it was also like not the magic hour, not the sun. It was like after the sunset, that blue light, that indigo light that lasts super. I mean, that's a super short window.
It legitimately is like 15 minutes.
It's 15. I mean, if you're lucky on a good day, it's like the last light, but it's like we try to shoot every day. You can't shoot that much stuff there, but we have a lot, like the opening shot of the movie where he's just like staring, breaking the fourth wall, smoking a blunt. Like it starts off in like that time of day, and then there's a scene where his windshield gets cracked. We had to shoot that over 2 days because it was just like it was a lot of coordination. There's like a car that's headlights turn on has come up, and there was a lot of stuff. And we're like sprinting. I'm like sprinting down the driveway after Freddie, where he's like, and he can run too. Freddie's like super in shape and he's a runner. And I was like, this like with a camera running after Freddie's like no joke. He was like full on
with sprinting. The easy rig just.
I did the handle, and I was like, okay. I just because I do the easy rig. I don't do it if I'm walking with somebody or running. Running is like I don't want to fall with that thing either. It'll be just like a nightmare. But like if I'm like walking, I feel the easy rig gets kind of bumpy Floaty. And weird. So I do it on the shoulder if anybody's like moving, and then if I'm like doing like more of like using my body as like a dolly or just adjusts, and I'm trying to like just hang out. I used to easy rig a ton. But that was but those are fun though. I did sort of like I guess I was just saying it was a very calm shoot, and I guess maybe every day at dusk it was not calm for half an hour.
One thing that I do that I don't know, if you're shooting with small cameras again is small rig makes like a little shoulder pad. It's like probably this big, but what I'll do is you can move the rail block, and so I'll put that so it's if the shoulder pad is vertical, you put the rail holder here, and I'll put that into my chest, and so I'll have the 2 handles, and I'll just jam it right into my chest. And with the smaller camera, even my C500, I'll have it right about here, and you can, like you're saying, use your body as kind of you got 3 points of contact, and you can use your body as sort of a dolly or what, tripod even, especially with certain lenses that are like stabilized.
Yeah. I think that like that trick of like the 3-point contact, wherever, and also like moving your body so like you don't just, your body doesn't disintegrate as well after a while. But it's like having the 3-point, like the various 3 points of contact, and like going at the right moment. So, having the patience of doing that. But it's a lot of, I think just doc shooting helps.
Yeah,
with that stuff too. But yeah.
I've pretty much asked every doc DP this. So I'll ask you, shoe preference.
Oh yeah, we can get to the shoes. I can go big into the shoe stuff right now.
Let's go.
I have a lot of shoe things, but I do now. I do hiking shoes, the Adidas Terex. I use a lot, but Diego, for this movie, I needed waterproof shoes that I did not have. Mm-hmm. And Diego introduced me to these things called Las Sportivas that I don't know if you've heard of, but they're like an Italian, they're for like rock climbing, but they also make trail running shoes that were waterproof. That Diego, I think initially was like, he showed me a site and they were like $20 less than any other shoe. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get them. And they're amazing. But like we were like shoe twins, the whole shoot. And he was just making fun of me the whole shoot. But we had this whole the Sportivas are kind of amazing though too. But yeah, so we were sort of shoe brothers for the whole shoot. But now I still have them. They're amazing. You can go like running, trail, they're kind of like basically really good hiking shoes too for the waterproof stuff.
Yeah.
But we wanted to do like an ad campaign tie-in to the movie, which we had a lot of good ideas for La Sportiva to as branding. It's like not on-screen branding, but I think that'd be kind of good.
Yeah, we have lots of ideas. I hope they're listening to us.
Clip it. Someone clip it. I recently got into the Blundstones, but I've found they're super comfortable. But I have found that you at about 8 hours, suddenly your heels really hurt, and I'm like, these are supposed to be like the shoes, and I don't. Still, Jenna Rocher and I think Dan Stoloff both had the same super cushion. I'd have to send you the link, but they're like massive, thick soled, like
the
running
Hokas
shoes. Yes.
Hokas. Yes. I have Hokas for jogging.
Okay.
And they're incredible. They're my favorite jogging shoes. And I've been thinking about getting them onto I do Allbirds too for like summer stuff, like Allbirds, but like the support is not, they're really comfortable though. It's just like clouds, but there's no real support. But I like shooting with those if it's not like an aggressive outside day, if it's like a studio day or something. But the Hokas are amazing as well. Those are really good too.
Yeah. Because then you've like Vans are good for about 30 minutes, Shoe selection, man. There's a book that Magnum Photos put out called, it's literally like Wear Good Shoes or something like that. Like it's so important. No one ever talks about it.
I know.
Back support.
There's a lot of I'm on a cinematography group on Facebook, but there's like my favorite thread on that. There's a set footwear thread that is just like it would take a day to read everyone's shoe, and like the shoe battles and stuff too just get kind of amazing. Yeah. I know another thing I like. Do you have a favorite camera bag that you carry around?
So no, that's actually something I'm currently trying to work on, because I would just do the Pelican Air, like the carry-on size one, right? Because my old camera would fit in that. My C500, after it's broken, in a perfect world, I want a camera bag that I can disassemble the camera as little as possible. I just want to be able to kind of yank it out. And so I have the Portabrace. I've used Portabrace for 2 decades now or whatever. But I haven't found like the perfect bag that I'm fully in love with.
Do you have more of like a straight up cam? I have like the one that's more like, I use the Peak Design one. That's incredible, but it's a straight up backpack. But it's modular, and it has like these side zippers and stuff, but you can have like all these lens configurations, but you wouldn't be able to put I guess maybe you could put the whole camera in, but it's like more like accessories.
Right.
It's like a backpack that it's like you have the camera and I have that on my back on like a dock thing, and you have all the stuff there, but it packs up, perfectly for however my brain works. I'm like, this is the thing that I need to do it. Every zipper pouch, it's kind of, I don't know. That's just my favorite thing I've had recently.
That's actually a great recommendation, because I'm kind of the same way. Like, my gear bag that's aside from the camera is oftentimes just like a mess. I have a backpack it's like I made a deal with, I didn't make a deal, but like, I was sort of friendly with this company called Condor. They make like combat equipment, so like Molly systems and stuff like that. And so they gave me a backpack, and because I had designed for doc style shooting stuff, I was shooting a lot of concerts, and so I had this combat vest because I wanted to have a bunch of pouches that I could swap out for various needs. So I had like, you can use a magazine dump pouch, so if like spent magazines go in this just sort of bag, but it folds up into like this big. So that would be back here. And if I ever needed it for water bottle or lenses or whatever, I just open it and it would pop open, and you could put like a full like Canon 24-70 would even fit in there. Or just like binocular pouch is really good for like light meter, or that's kind of like that big, and then admin pouches. So I had that stuff kind of thing for my person, but not something for accessories, to carry, not like a bag for it. So that's actually a great recommendation. I will wrap it up with the same question that I ask everyone, and I'm actually going to modify this question starting with this podcast, because I was trying to do it the same every day, and every time I've asked it slightly differently. So I'm going to just change it completely. It used to be, what's one thing that appreciably changed your cinematography career? I'm now changing it to ask you today and everyone going forward, what's the one piece of advice that you received from like a mentor or someone that has stuck with you the longest?
It wasn't like directly said to me, but I remember I went
Feel
to
free
art
to
school.
modify. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to like art school, and I wasn't into film for undergrad. And in Virginia, I moved to LA, and I like sent out like 200 resumes, and I got like hired. Only like 2 people called me back, and one person, and I got one job to originally PA on Phantasm 4. But like, long story short, I ended up like getting bumped up to an electrician on that show. The DP was Chris Coman, and it was just like one of those things that like people kept dropping out of whatever it was. Like, I ended up like essentially gaffing this thing for like a week before, like as a transitionary thing. And I didn't know what I was doing at all. And I had no idea. I mean, it was so green. It was incredible. And I just out of college, but Chris Coman, who's now teaches at USC, and he's at ASC. He's done a million things too. And whoever has him as a teacher is extremely lucky too. But I had no idea what I was doing. And Chris was so patient and so calm and so like cool with me, even though I could tell underneath the stress level that he had to like deal with me as someone who had no idea what they were doing. It was incredible. And just the way he dealt with the situation, and like and the way he carried himself like that, I was like, I've just basically tried to model set behavior after like his approach to it, basically. And whenever I have something that I'm like, I'm just want to murder this crew member, I'm just losing my mind, and like kind of looking back and see how Chris kind of was able to handle it in a sort of like such a professional way, and just being so helpful and so cool was like really kind of it just made a big impression on me as someone who's like working on their first movie, who was like, I was definitely trying hard, but I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, well,
and for sure.
That is, it's interesting you say that, because one, that is something that people say like, oh, do you need film school? And I actually do think you do, but not for like learning movies. It's more for the environment of failure that you're allowed to cultivate before you get out in the real world. But that on-set etiquette is definitely something that you do not learn in film school.
No, it's definitely, you kind of come. I mean, I eventually did go to grad school at NYU and stuff like that. But that first experience, you're like, okay, I get, this is the way you should do it,
Well, and the other thing that's interesting about that is I've noticed now, I think this is podcast 3031. All the ASC members all kind of had the same advice, which was exactly as you said, like, just chill, just like, it's going to be hectic, relax, take a breath, be kind. That advice over and over and over again from ASC members was just like, be kind, be gentle, get the work done, but don't freak out.
Yeah, totally. I gotta get in touch with Chris. I haven't talked to him forever. He's a great guy.
Diego, I'll kick the same question to you while you're here. Any advice that you received that you from mentors, or maybe something that you observed?
I guess one thing that I learned, I don't think I can relate to a mentor, but just like what the film industry and my career has taken me through, all the ups and downs, and a lot of downs, is trying to make films that you really believe in. It's sometimes really hard. Is persistence and never give up, and sometimes it's a really windy road to get there. But if you persist, then you'll eventually get there.
Yeah, especially with this film. What'd you say? You've been working on it for
5 years,
6
years now.
5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, great case study there. Well, thanks guys for especially spending the extra fucking half hour with me. That was fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure. Congrats on I'm a fan of the podcast too. I've been listening to it. It's cool. It's a really fun one to check out,
man. I'm glad we're at that point where someone can say that.
Frame and Reference is an Owlbot production. It's produced and edited by me, Kenny McMillan, and distributed by ProVideo Coalition. Our theme song is written and performed by Mark Pelly, and the F&R Mattbox logo was designed by Nate Truax at Truax Branding Company. You can read or watch the podcast you've just heard by going to provideocoalition.com or youtube.com/owlbot, respectively. And as always, thanks for listening.